Hello, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Black Rims. I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
And this is Beyond the Black Rims, Season 9, Episode 1.
Or Episode 191 if you're counting.
So we've got a pretty big lag in between Josh and myself right now, so apologies to those of you who are watching live right now as well. This is not a circumstance that is a very typical circumstance, and hopefully this will be rectified in the future. We're working on a wireless connection rather than a wired one. I'm sure for you guys who are live, you're seeing quite a bit of buffering. It might make this a little difficult for you to watch right now. I hope that you'll come and watch it when it's up and available for everybody to watch on YouTube. That's going to be in about another day or so. But thank you so much for coming to see us for our season premiere episode, or season 9. Man, 9 seasons in the course of what? It's been something like, no, it hadn't been 5 years, right? More like 4 years? I'll give you a minute to catch up with me here.
I would say that it's been at least 4 years at the least, because we started doing this, at least a year before we got married. God, how long has it been at this point? I just know at this point we're getting so close to 200 episodes. It's mind-blowing that we've been doing it for that amount of time and that people have stuck with it for that long.
Yeah, exactly. Hearing that some people are reporting a double echo of some variety, though I'm not sure where they're getting it from. Definitely let me know what is echoing in the background, and I will do my best to fix it. Until then, we're just going to keep going. Yeah, things have been really progressing out here. Josh, you're going to be coming out here to the Los Angeles area in the very near future. We'll finally be able to do the show in the same place.
Very soon.
Yeah, being in the same place to do the show would be great.
That would help.
Yeah, definitely. It would help to not have this lag and this buffer and whatever other echo people are reporting that they're seeing. That would be amazing.
Well, we do what we can with what we've got, so yeah, let's make the best of it.
Yeah, definitely. What else is going on? Josh, tell me what else is up.
Something, I'll go into this a little bit more in the follow-ups later, but something I didn't think, talking about how much time in between us getting started on doing the show goes, also as a fan of Tokusatsu, there's certain things that we have nowadays that I couldn't imagine we'd have the option to have now, back then. And one of those things came true this week. We finally got Garo on Blu-ray in the States, legally subbed.
Yeah,
for a very decent price. First half of the series just came out. It's at your local Best Buy. You can order it on Amazon. It's only about $25. Definitely worth the price. It's the first 13 episodes of the first season. Second half is going to be coming out in December. Get this series. I cannot recommend it enough.
Oh, awesome. That's so good. I can't wait for you to bring it out here so that we can sit and watch it legally. Yeah. So excited about that. Having to watch it over this past decade through unscrupulous sources, that was not the way I wanted to do it for such a
you do what you have to.
Yeah. This lag between you and me is really, really rough, because I can't tell when I'm supposed to pause for you and let you talk.
Well, the thing of it is, you do what you can to support the series while it's in its infancy. When we first got it, it was just the first season. We didn't know that it was going to be a first season of anything. It's just what we got, and we figured, oh, this is all it's ever going to be. And then thankfully it picked up steam a couple of years later, and now it's grown into this massive media, I would almost say empire, because now there's games, there's all the spin-off movies, the anime. The new season just started. Funimation's streaming it over on their website, Vanishing Line. It's so amazing that there's not a lot of things that I get in on at the outset. Garo was one of those things, so I'm happy that I've seen it grow, and now other people have the option of getting in on it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Super excited, again, like I just said, to sit down and watch it with you. Watch! That made me remember I'm wearing a brand new watch. That I know that's so dumb. What a stupid transition. I will never do that again, I hope. So the Pebble...
You'll do it again.
I'll do it again. The Pebble is a smartwatch that unfortunately was actually discontinued last year. You really can't see it all that well, but I'm so thrilled with it. It's not being supported, but the people who loved the Pebble so much are still creating apps and stuff for it, and I'm really, really happy with it. It does everything I need it to do. The only thing it doesn't do is allow me to speak through it to make phone calls and stuff, but I can, talk into it.
What's the point?
Well, what's the point? I can talk into it and send text messages. I get notifications from any other apps I want on my phone.
Does it give you notifications of Zordon? Does it tell you when Rita Repulse is attacking?
I could look it up while we're recording the show right now, and I bet you that it does. I bet you that I can totally do that. So
that's the purpose of a smartwatch.
I understand. I understand that is your number one priority in a smartwatch, is being able to talk to Zordon. I get that.
Yes,
I understand.
which is why I will start looking into one.
Yeah, I mean, even though the Pebble's discontinued, I still would really highly recommend it, personally, frankly. Maybe one day there will be a smartwatch that outdoes it. I know some people are really preferential to the Samsung Gear. The Gear is really expensive, but the Pebble does everything I need it to do for relatively cheap, and I'm very satisfied with it. Yeah. Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
Good for you.
Is there anything else that went on while we were on season break that we need to talk to people about?
That's pretty much what the follow-ups are for.
Oh, I understand. Then is that what we want to get into here in a second?
Well, yeah, but we should probably say what the main stories are first.
Yeah, of course. So we'll go ahead and do that. Right now, we're going to talk about what our main stories are coming up a little later on in this episode. First of all, just a few days ago, we got the drop of the new Black Panther trailer. Looks very, very good. We're going to talk about what we saw and just talk about getting excited for it. Really, we did talk about Black Panther last season, of course. Just gonna follow up with that news story. And Josh's
yes,
turn.
Because it's good to talk about. It's good to talk about movies that look hopeful,
right? Exactly.
As opposed to ragging on other movies. Our second story for the evening is going to be this conversation that people are starting to have about the concept of loot boxes in video games and whether or not they constitute as a form of gambling. I know myself, I've given in and gotten a couple of loot boxes. I know some people out in the audience might have as well. We're going to talk about that, whether or not we actually think it is, and what that says for the future of gaming.
Yes, and then finally, a third and final story, just again the other night, we ran into, we talked about this like a couple years ago. It was the giant robot battle that Americans challenged the Japanese to, and it finally happened a couple of nights ago. Didn't necessarily go the way that we were expecting it was going to go, but we're gonna.
It did and it didn't.
It did and it didn't. So we're gonna talk about what that was and why it is we feel that way, and hopefully we can later on get some feedback from you guys to see what you thought of that robot battle, because it was exciting that it happened, but I hope better robot fights come afterward as well, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Alright, that having been said, it is time for follow-ups. Josh, please treat us to some follow-ups. Please.
I've only got a few more weeks to milk this, so we've been doing this long enough. You know what it is.
Alright.
Full-blown Justice League. Get it up there.
It's up there.
Okay, so full-blown Justice League. Of course, we got the final trailer not too long ago for Justice League, this movie coming out in just a few weeks in November. Finally, we have some footage of Henry Cavill there as Superman, albeit in a dream sequence, because we know now that the DC Extended Universe loves their dream sequences, and we can't fully commit to telling people Superman comes back, even though it's like the worst kept secret ever.
We know, like that's the only way you're gonna get a Justice League movie. He has to be there. We all know that.
Yes. But from what we're hearing from outlets right now, tickets will go on sale Monday, October 30th, most likely in the evening, so get your money ready for that. I know it's got our money, and we are going to have to report on this train wreck.
Yeah, of course. I wish that it didn't have our money, but we're going, as always. So, see you after the movie comes out. Yay!
That one's probably going to have a vlog.
Okay, I'll trust you there. All right, tell me what else is going on.
Okay, so in other DC news, so over on the CW, we've got 2 bits of information there. Kind of an interesting name drop over on Arrow earlier this week. We actually had Oliver Queen, played by Stephen Amell there on the show, name drop Bruce Wayne for the first time ever in the history of the Arrowverse. They've kind of mentioned a vigilante in Gotham before, but this time he blatantly mentioned Bruce Wayne on camera. This, of course, got people hoping, oh, will we eventually see Batman over on the CW side of things? So far, that looks like a no, but it was still nice to have that name drop.
Yeah, nice to know that they haven't just decided, well, Batman doesn't exist in this universe, so yay.
No, he's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
The other bit of information there from the CW, kind of sad news, is that over on Legends of Tomorrow, actor Victor Garber, who has been there on Legends of Tomorrow, started out with guest spots there on The Flash, who's half of Firestorm, will be leaving the show later on this season. Of course, yeah, he's been a very beloved character on the show. They have a good enough reason to write him out right now, but it'll be sad to see him go. But of course, he's going on to do nicer things. He's going to do a revival of Hello, Dolly on Broadway. So, good for him for still being active in theater.
Wow, yeah, that is kind of impressive. Yeah. Man, since being out here, there's been quite a lot of granted, this isn't Broadway or anything, but I'm finding Los Angeles is a pretty big stopping hub for these theatrical performances, and I know the on-Broadway dudes don't go out and do the tours, but man, that would be nice to finally catch up on some theater that we've not had the opportunity to watch. So get out here, Josh.
Yes.
Let's do and see more
I'm
theater.
coming, jeez.
I know.
All right, so moving on to some other DC news, so a little bit of casting for Titans, this live-action Teen Titans project that we've got coming up. Actor Ryan Potter, who you would know as Hiro Hamada from Big Hero 6, has been cast just today as the role of Beast Boy. He of course, is rounding out the cast consisting of the other Titans, Dick Grayson, Starfire, Hawk, Dove, and Raven. A lot of birds in that.
A lot of flight.
But it's nice to see that this is actually a lot of flight. So nice to see that this is still moving forward. I think this is the core cast that we're looking at here. Of course, noticeably absent would be Cyborg, but that makes sense since he's being used over in the movie side of things.
Of course. Tight Hero 6. That sort of
something
makes sense.
Like that.
Yeah. All right, what else is going on, Josh?
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to some Marvel news here. So we've got this picture here to show you guys from the set of Luke Cage Season 2. So one of the highlights, I'll say, of the Defenders crossover there just a little bit ago was the interplay between Luke Cage and Danny Rand, the Immortal Iron... Yeah, I know, we got tired of him saying that. Well, here it apparently is being shown that Danny Rand will show up here during Luke Cage Season 2, and they are going to start playing more at this concept of them eventually becoming the heroes for hire. Admittedly, from watching the show, when they were actually in conversation with one another, it made them both better, which is how it's supposed to work. So hopefully this will make things go better as far as building up Luke Cage's story, but also making Danny Rand a bit more palatable for the audience at large.
I sure hope so. I know everybody was so upset about him, and it really made me not want to watch Iron Fist, and I couldn't hardly get into what was their crossover series?
Defenders.
I couldn't hardly get into Defenders either, thanks to him. So, but hopefully, maybe this fixes it a little bit, at least, or maybe they'll continue to play him as a joke. That would be okay too.
I would prefer that he be the Iron Fist that I know he should be. But that, of course, is over on Luke Cage. On the Punisher end of things, so we have gotten confirmation as of today when the series will debut. It'll be coming out just under a month from now on November 17th. Now, some of you might be familiar with that date because that is the exact same day Justice League is hitting theaters. So depending on how things go, if you're not waiting in line to go see Superman show up in the third act, you're going to be at home watching Frank Castle mow some guys down.
That might almost be better.
Maybe. This, of course, coming on the heel of the decision to remove the Punisher portion of things from New York City Comic Con, of course, due to the tragic events that had happened earlier that week, which I think was the best decision that Marvel could have made at the time. Still, though, it remains to be seen how people are going to take it. There still seems to be a lot of buzz around this, so now you can go ahead and get ready to ask off that day if you weren't already going out for DC purposes, for Marvel purposes.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will, in fact, make that Marvel decision. I absolutely agree.
All right, and this one's kind of an offshoot from the Marvel portion of things. So for Thor Ragnarok, which is just coming up here in about 2 weeks, director Taika Waititi, who of course has been having a blast there on the set, talking about how well the actors were getting along, has been rumored to be in the run to direct Akira.
Oh.
And having been approached by it, he said that his first order of business would be to make sure to cast Asian actors and actresses in the main roles.
Huh, well, okay, that sounds like a more promising version of Akira than we've heard before in the past. Still not fully convinced yet, but okay, you're easing me into that idea.
At this point, I would think that's a better option than what we've been fed the last couple of years. Maybe if that actually develops, we'll see. No word yet on whether or not he's been fully approached by, I believe it's Warner Brothers who still has the rights on that. But of course, we'll stick with that as it develops.
Definitely. Looking forward to it.
So moving on to some other big news as far as movies go. Of course, we were warning you guys up until recently that there was going to be a final trailer for Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and it dropped just recently. The interesting thing about that is between the two of us, one of us has watched that trailer, the other hasn't.
Yeah, you watched that trailer. I have not, because we reported to you guys last season, Mark Hamill said, stop watching stuff. And when Luke Skywalker tells me to stop watching stuff, I'm gonna stop watching stuff, and that's exactly what I did. So I'm trusting that you thought that it was pretty okay. I'm okay seeing this poster. Apparently porgs are like a big thing. They're just getting bigger and bigger now. And some people are really loving their inclusion, and other people are just furious that they exist. I don't know, I've seen less Porg hate since the trailer launched, I think. I think I've seen more people excited about the Porgs.
But yes, the interesting thing to report on that is that the trailer, once it did hit YouTube, of course it was on Monday Night Football, much like the trailer for The Force Awakens was, got 120 million hits within one day, which I don't think is surprising at all.
No, it's not. It is still impressive, though.
Yes. For my money, I don't believe that I was incredibly spoiled by what was shown there. It did get me very hyped. I was watching it here at home with my brother, and I saw his face light up like I haven't seen since he was a kid and he first got his VHS box set of the original trilogy. So if that says anything, hopefully we're in for a good ride here in December.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. And of course, as soon as it dropped, actually before it dropped, you and I had to kind of have communication over how we were going to handle getting tickets. We're going to go see the movie out in Burbank, near where I'm doing work, out in Burbank, and you sent me out to Burbank to go get these tickets while you were at home seeing if you could actually buy the tickets online. It sounded like you were struggling a little bit with server reload time, and as you can imagine, server reload time for various theaters, depending on the theater,
it just got worse and worse as the night went on.
Right, but thankfully you got through. I was down there, I was able to go up to a kiosk, and I was able to nab these tickets right here. So excited. I actually have them in my hand. That we're definitely gonna go. You're gonna be out here and we're gonna see it together, and it's gonna be amazing. I'm so excited.
Yes. And of course, that goes without saying that that is one of the nerd high holy days, so we will not have a show that night.
Of course, absolutely.
Okay, so moving on to some other movie news. So, of course, the other big thing from New York Comic Con was our first look at a full trailer for Pacific Rim Uprising.
Oh, yeah.
This, of course, this gave me the fizz in so many different ways. And now we're seeing all of these different Jaegers on the field. You can see them here in this picture with all of these different abilities. They're having to take on the kaiju threat, which has now grown bigger in more than one way. There's more of them and they're larger, but apparently based off the trailer, they can combine somehow, which only makes me hope that if we have combining kaiju, please give us giant combining robots, please. I only ask so much for Christmas.
Yeah,
even though this is coming out in March.
This is definitely the natural progression of where Pacific Rim had to go. If we already had pilotable mech, it could only go in the direction of combining Gatai pilotable mech. That's just... Where else were you going to go with it? I'm excited about it. So, yes, I'm glad that we were here to talk about this, too.
Yes, okay, so let's move on to a little bit of interesting anime news. So, of course, we've been keeping an eye on Tiger and Bunny, whether or not they're actually going to move forward with a live-action adaptation on that. We did report that a while back, but just this week, Tiger and Bunny was actually added onto Netflix. For a while, it was over on Viz's website, and then for a little bit on Hulu, but now it's on Netflix for many people to see. The interesting thing about that, as you can see here in this photo showing the difference, is that in order to avoid the licensing nightmare that is the character costumes there in Tiger and Bunny, they have removed every logo from every superhero there in the show, which is kind of bad considering how much licensing actually ties into the plot of Tiger and Bunny.
Yeah, that's really, really sad, and that's a lot of work. That's almost every shot of the heroes in costume, you know? It's so nearly unavoidable. There goes Pepsi, like you see in this picture. There goes Ustream, and I'm blanking on the names of all these other...
Bondi, SoftBank, they're all gone.
That's so sad. It's so culturally relevant and so relevant, like you said, to the plot. It's so sad.
Yes. So that's the thing. I mean, you can enjoy Tiger and Bunny. It's just certain lines aren't going to make as much sense when they're referring to licensing and having sponsorship, and you don't actually see it on the costume.
Yeah, definitely. I thought that was such a huge part of, like, the NASCAR sort of aspect of what this... what kind of a world these characters live in. It's so important. Yeah, I'm not gonna watch it on Netflix. I'm just not gonna do it.
All right, so moving on to some Tokusatsu news. So interestingly enough, we got an announcement just a week ago that Power Rangers is doing another live touring show across the U.S. So this is in celebration of the 25th anniversary. There are going to be shows all over the place here in San Antonio, where I am currently. It's going to hit 50 cities over the course of spring, including L.A., Toronto. Tickets are available already, with some packages already selling out in some places. Some fans are really hopeful to see this tour. We're probably going to find a way to catch it ourselves out there in LA, but definitely check that out if you want to see this celebration. It'll be interesting to see, because this is based off Ninja Steel. You remember when we took our trip out to Japan, we saw their counterpart Ninja, and that stage show was pretty friggin' awesome.
Yeah, that was a really boss show with some amazing wire work over the audience and everything. Really good utilization of one single set, like almost like a one act, you know, really, really good utilization. And I am definitely interested. So it'll hit out here in Los Angeles in April. Really interesting that Los Angeles is getting it so very late when you consider Saban Brands is out here in Los Angeles. It's just interesting it doesn't start out here. It comes out here in the middle of its run. So it'll hit Los Angeles and San Diego in the middle of April. So we definitely will be able to catch it, although other people will certainly be catching it much sooner than us. So I hope somebody out there goes and sees it and tells us just how good it actually is.
Yes, so if you're interested in seeing it, you can go over to PowerRangersLive.com to check out dates and tickets.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to this other bit. Like I was talking about earlier, Garo, of course, being released on Blu-ray just this week. Kraken Releasing has announced that they're actually going to continue with that and release the Kiba the Dark Knight solo movie, and that will come out in February. So it's nice to see that Kraken is really buying into this idea of getting Garo out there to the mass public. No word on when pre-orders are going to go on sale, but you better believe I'm going to get me a copy.
Yeah, absolutely. How are we not going to support it, you know? Especially after you've gotten the first part, why would you not want the rest of it? Why would you not want to support Garo all the way through? Just makes sense. Please get it.
Yes, and of course the last thing, which is the most major thing in my book that happened while we were on break, was the reveal of this trailer for Kamen Rider Heisei Generations Final, which showed, as you'll see here with this new poster, the returning cast members for the show, people I didn't think they were ever going to get back. All of the returning cast members there. We have Sota Fukushi returning as Forza. He was the biggest name on there that I didn't think they were going to get back. They got Gakusano back as Gaim. They've got Ryosuke Miura and Shu Watanabe back as Ankh and Eiji, respectively. Of course, we've got Ghost back as well. And there's going to be bike action.
Yeah,
and explosions and everything I want out of a Rider movie.
Sort of feels
it's amazing.
It sort of feels like they know they have to pull out all of the stops because they know that the Emperor is going to step down and his son is going to come into power, which means that they're going to enter an entirely new era. They're going to go into an entirely new calendar year in Japan, and that's how we get the break of Showa and Heisei. It all comes down to what emperor is in power at that given moment in time. So they've got to do it now because this emperor is about to step down and we're about to enter a whole new era, and it's going to probably mark a big visual difference between our dudes that we see right now and who we're going to see a year from now. So they know they have to do everything they can to make this look good. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it will also have a good narrative. I can't say that I'm expecting it, but we'll see. Here's hoping.
Here's hoping. But that's, of course, all of our follow-ups for the evening. Let's go ahead and get into our first story with Black Panther.
Yeah, so I'm going to be running this Black Panther trailer here in the background. It's kind of in the middle of the trailer right now, so, but man, it looks... I don't know what else to say right this second. Maybe you can lead me in some conversation, but this is so good. It's something that we don't see out of superhero films all that often. It's a tone and a visual structure that we just don't see a whole lot out of superhero films, and I'm so glad that it blends into the Marvel Cinematic Universe the way that it does.
Well, see, the great thing that I'm seeing here isn't so much the blending. I mean, of course, there's the carryovers from Captain America Civil War, with Everett Ross there speaking with T'Challa. But beyond that, it looks so unique and so visually striking. All of the different architecture there in Wakanda, the costumes. Funny enough, I just barely found out today that a good friend of mine back from high school who went into costuming and prosthetic works is actually working on the movie, and I'm freaking hyped for him that he's actually out there doing it.
That's so cool. I'm so happy that you're knowing people that are... see, you got another reason to come out here, because people are making their dreams come true, doing the stuff that they love to do. Oh, that's just so cool.
And to that, speaking to that same note, making dreams come true, people have been waiting for a very long time for this kind of representation there, not just in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but just in cinema as a whole. You know, this year we had Wonder Woman giving all of this rise up to women feeling like, yes, we finally have somebody that we can see on screen that we want to emulate, that we can look up to. Here with Black Panther, for the entire African American community, you go on Twitter and you see people just losing their minds, being like, I'm already in line. I don't care if it's February. I will wait now. And I'm kind of in the same boat with them, with everything that they're showing here from the visuals, the very fast-paced action. It looks like everything that I was hoping for from a Black Panther movie. And here, now that we've got some of the same shots that we saw in the first trailer, but with more effects added on there, it's blowing my mind here.
Society needs this, quite honestly. They need something that looks like this. The representation needs to be there. There's just no arguing it. And I don't want to point this too political, but people have been arguing it for some reason, as if it looks like it's trying to remove white people from existence and only push other people forward. Well, I mean, everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be represented at some point. That's kind of where I'm going to stop that conversation, but...
Well, see, that's the funny part about the narrative here, because the whole idea, as you're seeing there in the trailer, you know, with the ship coming in through the different filters that they have around Wakanda, they don't want to be seen. Mm-hmm. But the whole idea is that T'Challa, as the new leader, wants to make sure, no, I'm proud of my people, I'm proud of our technological accomplishments, let us be seen. And so that there's going to be this whole opposition between his new way of thinking and the different people there in Wakanda, M'Baku, and of course Eric Killmonger, they're played by Michael B. Jordan, who want things done a different way than T'Challa does. Now, interestingly enough, this is something that was actually spoiled in toys that we saw at New York Comic Con, but here they're showing it in this trailer. We see that Eric Killmonger has his own version of the Black Panther suit, which actually looks a little bit more like his comic book costume, whereas here in the cinematic universe, his outline is more silver. Killmonger's suit has the gold enhancements that we see more of in the comic books. So it's going to be interesting to see how that's played out on screen. I do understand the complaints that some people have that with a lot of Marvel movies, the first villain that they get is just a carbon copy of them. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of things that I'm concerned about, but I'm only so concerned because I still think that with everybody there, with Ryan Coogler directing, that they're going to get absolutely stellar performances out of this cast. Nobody there, I believe, is a bad actor or bad actress. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where this goes, and of course seeing eventually more Black Panther movies.
Yeah, for real. I think it's really interesting too that it seems pretty obvious that they're eventually going to show up in Korea. We can see them in some sort of a vehicle chase down streets that are just covered in neon lights written in Hangul. And, see, I can recognize what Korean looks like, but I can't read it aside from one character. So, forget that. I just know they appear to be in Korea. So, what leads him so far away from Wakanda?
Well, they are saying there's going to be a little bit of globe hopping, not too much, because they do definitely want to focus on Wakanda itself as being its own character, this nation that nobody has any concept of. You hear it in the past trailer. Everett Ross is talking about what he thinks he knows, and then of course Ulysses Klaue is telling him you have no clue what they actually do there. And really, that's going to be people's concept of this coming into it. A lot of people, much like with Iron Man several years ago, people didn't know Iron Man. Iron Man was not a household name. That movie came out, Iron Man is a household name. I bet you anything that's exactly what's happening here. If you didn't already know because of Civil War, you're going to know come February who Black Panther is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just by being tied into the Marvel Cinematic Universe to begin with, this trailer has pushed it into the public consciousness so hard, just all on its own. So, super excited about it. Super excited to see. I definitely want to midnight this, because I want to see the kind of audience that gets that excited about it, that they show up for this at midnight. I want to see if it's the same kind of audience that goes to all the superhero movies, or if we get some other variety of people who typically would not come out to midnight these films.
Yes, absolutely. I believe it'll be something akin to. You remember when you and I went to go see Get Out? There was a lot more diverse audience than some other movies we'd gone to see, and I believe it's going to be that to another degree because there's going to be this cross section of people that may not have come out to a movie like this anyway. Like, oh, I'm tired of superheroes, but then when you put in the context of wait, but there's representation here. You know, there's a strong full black cast, black actors, they're in their strength showing, hey, we're here to make this movie, and it actually ties into stuff you like, and it's actually going to show you some things that you weren't aware of. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to what the metrics are going to be after this as to who's going and how much. I think this might set records.
Definitely. Anything else we need to talk about in regards specifically to this trailer?
I do appreciate the joke that this trailer has both Gollum and Bilbo. So, granted that since this cast is mainly African American, they're the Tolkien white guys.
I get the joke. I understand. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Twitter.
Yeah, and thank you, Twitter. Yeah, that's
no. Don't thank me. Thank Twitter.
Okay, I understand.
Okay, I'm done here.
Okay, so then, thank you, Black Panther, for really making some people's week this past week. We're gonna go ahead and move on to, this discussion that a lot of people have been having, in regards to loot boxes. Is this really news? Maybe not, but it has been a very big, pressing discussion this past week for some reason. It's just come up a whole lot. So I've got an image right now of an Overwatch loot box, just because I know that's something that you and I can identify with very quickly, very easily. You have been that fool that has purchased Overwatch loot boxes with actual money, and I don't understand.
I did it last week.
What? Are you serious? Why did you do that?
I had to make sure I got. This is actually going to prove the point that we're making here, because there are certain cosmetic items, whether it be in Overwatch or some other games, that you want to have. The idea is that if you're playing just the regular game, you get so much in-game currency to try and get these items, but they're not just straight up for purchase. You're purchasing the chance to get the item. So sometimes in order to bolster that chance, you, like myself, will put in real-world money to increase your chances of getting said item. In my particular case, it was for the most recent vampire skin for Reaper there for the Halloween event here in Overwatch, which I did get, but it took a little bit. Now, admittedly, in my case, that was $10. Fine. But for some people, they really dig in to trying to get some of these items. I know that was the case with the Summer Games, getting that Olympic Mercy skin that came out, the Greek-looking one. And it's like that for a lot of people, but the idea that it comes back to is this or is this not a form of gambling if what you're trying to get isn't a guarantee?
Well, I'm going to say that it is a gamble. Gambling and being a gamble are not necessarily exactly the same thing. If it was putting money in an attempt to win back more money, that would be a legal gambling definition. So maybe that's how you get away with it, but I do think that it skirts kind of a morality issue, perhaps. Now, I want to kind of make a comparison to redemption games in arcades. So, I've been going to the arcade round 1 quite a bit as of late. So I actually went very recently with our friends Mark and Samantha, and what they got caught up in a whole lot of, and they kind of roped me into this too, was a redemption game in which you slide your round 1 card in the machine. It's DC superhero themed, and it has a whole bunch of coins that it drops down, and you're trying to push these coins out in order to to receive tickets. Also, what you can get are a whole bunch of superhero-themed cards. I'm showing one up to the camera right now. I managed to get one that was the Flash. You want to try and get a whole team of superheroes and a whole team of villains in order to get even more tickets. But the cards are really hard to push out of the slot. It's very, very difficult, the way the machine pushes it. It only pushes a little bit at a time, and sometimes it's a gamble as to how many coins the machine will actually drop in the first place. Sometimes it'll drop like 10, sometimes it'll only drop 1. So I spent, like, more money than I should have, and all I could get was this one card of the Flash, and Mark and Samantha spent significantly more money than I did, and they got more cards than me, but it still was like, this is a lot of money. But, you know, children can play this. You know, a parent gives their round 1 card to their kid, and then they just go up and they play redemption games like this just to get tickets. Is that gambling? It's gambling intended for children, because then, you know, you'll end up going to the ticket counter booth, and you're like, yay, I got me one of those sticky hands, and that cost like 250 tickets. Well, it cost you $20 to get 250 tickets. Like, that's really ridiculous. So if you're gonna ask whether or not loot boxes are gambling, you kind of have to ask the same question of redemption games in arcades. It's literally the exact same concept.
Well, in that sense, it's gambling that's not quite gambling, because they're skirting certain things to get around that. Kind of like, I'll counter-argument that, you know, you bring up redemption games for kids, think of Japan and the concept of pachinko machines, and how with some places the redemption isn't done there. You know this as well. You have to go around the corner to a different place to turn in your winnings for actual prizes.
Yeah, yeah.
So in that sense, when you're having to skirt the line here of, well, we're splitting things up, you know, it's not quite gambling because we cut out this part, but that part's totally over here and you have to pay for it. Then in that sense, yeah, it's about on that same level, I would argue. Because honestly, if I had the option, if you just told me flat out, like with this past event, or it's still going on until the 1st of November, if you just told me, hey, the Legendary Reaper skin is $20, I would have made the decision, okay, do I want to purchase it or not? But if I put down that $20, I'm guaranteed that item. So it's just a purchase. That's not gambling. But if you tell me, give me $20 and I will give you 21 chances to get it, not guaranteeing that you will, then yeah, that's figuratively a gamble and literally a gamble, because I'm giving you money on a game of chance.
Yeah.
And in that sense, yeah, it's gambling.
Yeah. Well, and again, we have to talk about what the legal definition of gambling is. Are you putting in money in the hopes of receiving more money? That is the legal gambling definition. I would absolutely say that, culturally speaking, it is gambling, because it is a gamble, like I said, to put money in and hope to get something back, and you're not even guaranteed to get that thing back. I think by cultural definition, it is gambling. By legal definition, it's not, and everybody knows that it's not, and they know that they can get away with it. So, now, morally speaking, is this okay? Is this a good thing to do? Is it okay that this is the direction that video games are starting to go in? Because this is a relatively recent concept within gaming. It used to be kind of only limited to mobile gaming, but now we're starting to see it move into PC and console gaming more and more regularly. This is not a thing that used to be before the advent of games being connected to the internet. You know, we grew up with video games basically our entire lives. And this is not a thing that we always saw in video games. This is, now we're adults, and now we're starting to see microtransactions such as these in the form of loot boxes. Is this good? Is this good for video games?
Well, because the idea is some people are calling for the regulation of loot boxes, because when certain things, like certain events happen, and they start tinkering with the algorithm at which what I guess what you would call good loot comes out, then yeah, it feels like more of a waste because nobody wants. As an example, if you put in $10 for loot boxes and you get 11 loot boxes, you don't want 80% of that to be voice lines and sprays for characters you don't play. Personally, I would rather put in the money for the thing I would actually like to get. I'd rather it be a straight up transaction instead of adding this element of chance, which inherently makes people want to spend more because they're not getting what they want on the first go.
Exactly, yeah. And yeah, that's why I will not make a monetary purchase of a loot box. If we're talking about earning in-game currency that I can then spend to get more loot boxes, sure, I'll do that all day, every day, because you're getting me to continue to play your game. You're getting me, by continuing to play your game, I will continue to earn your in-game currency. That means that there is purpose and reason to continue supporting the game because people are still playing it. But that's not good enough for the video game industry, and who wouldn't want to make more money? And this is definitely making more money. Some people are saying, well, there's nothing wrong with it, because if you're spending money on something aesthetic that does not affect gameplay, well then what's the problem? And I guess to an extent they have a point. However, it does feel like this might be kind of a slippery slope. This might slide into territory where maybe it won't stay that way. Maybe it'll eventually become pay to win. I know way back in the day, I think it was Ragnarok Online had a big problem with pay to win, not just pay for cosmetic changes and enhancements. So I hope that that is not the direction that this ends up going in. I'm just gonna get mad at you for spending money on aesthetic things that you may or may not get, but at the same time, at least it's not affecting gameplay. I can get mad, but only so mad.
No, it doesn't affect gameplay. Like, if you want to argue that, I feel like I play better wearing a cool skin, but that's just me.
Yeah, that is literally just you. It's literally just you.
Okay.
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 I think that that is basically the argument that's on the table right now. I don't think that microtransactions such as loot boxes are necessarily going to go away, very unfortunately. Or maybe it doesn't bother you nearly as much as it bothers me. If you guys would like to debate this in the comments below, please definitely do. I look forward to hearing about it, and maybe we'll bring it up again in another week or so and see what our audience thought about loot boxes and other sorts of microtransactions. I think that would be great to hear from you guys.
Yes.
Alright. So are we done with that topic then?
I want to talk about robots.
You want to talk about robots? That is exactly what I labeled this picture.
I want to talk about robots.
Robots. I need to move the picture just a little bit. It's kind of gonna be awkward here, but you can see on screen. We just had, like, what, 2 days ago was it? It was Megabots versus Suidobashi. So like 2 years ago.
2 days ago.
Yeah, and 2 years ago, Megabots, the American robot building company, they built a robot and they said, okay, we want to challenge the Japanese because they built a robot first. So they challenged the company Suidobashi to have their giant robots fight each other. Rawr, fighting robots. They said in 1 year we're gonna make adjustments to our robots and we're gonna have our robots fight one another. And it's going to be the first giant mech battle that the world has ever seen. And that idea was super, super exciting, you know? We reported on it, I want to say, 2 years ago.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Because the idea of this actually happening, it seemed so far off at the time, like, well, of course we're going to report on it because it sounds cool, but will we ever get to see this? And yeah, it took longer than we expected, but lo and behold, this past week they actually showed us the footage. Now, for a while there, they were testing this out, teasing this out as, oh, this is going to be a live event that you're going to watch. And so when they made the announcement that, oh, we're just going to show this on a stream but not live, some people were very upset by that. And I think now, having watched the fight, it's become very apparent just how much staging was involved in this event, which you can take as good or bad, because with a lot of this is the first time anything of this nature has been done before on this scale. I mean, we've had battle bots before, and we've seen a couple of cool ones, but that's on a very small scale compared to actual people in a mech cockpit. We've never had that before. So there's a lot of trial and error that goes into that, and I believe that that's what they were trying to take into account in knowing people want to see this event, but at the same time we have to be smart and we have to be safe about it as much as possible.
Well, I do understand that, but at the same time, this felt very clearly like a vehicle for Megabots specifically, because they started that live stream on the 17th at 7 p.m. Pacific, and when they started that stream, it was all nothing but prep video out of Megabots for their, what was the name of their robot? The Eagle something.
Eagle Prime.
Eagle Prime, okay. So it showed their building and fixing up of the Eagle Prime, and it showed almost no footage at all of the building process or the fixing up process of Suidobashi's robot,
Kuratas.
Kuratas, yeah. So yeah, it felt very staged in favor of Megabots. The Eagle Prime was the robot that ended up winning the core fight of that battle between the two of them, and then they immediately went to a live Q&A session with the dudes from Megabots, which was not in Japan. Who knows how long ago they actually filmed the robot fight in Japan, and
it was about a month ago.
It was about a month ago. So see, like, it feels like this was all to get attention for Megabots and not for Suidobashi, which just makes me want to go out and hunt down more information about Suidobashi. In fact, I'm gonna go freaking do that right now.
And see, the cool thing about it, as far as I was concerned, watching that fight, for anybody watching Tokusatsu and watches a lot of Super Sentai or Kamen Rider, they were fighting in that warehouse. I think one of the good examples of that would be Akiba Ranger Episode 1, where they're first testing out their powers. It's that warehouse. You see it come up, a couple of times a year. And that blew my mind and a lot of people's minds there online. Like, oh my god, they're fighting where Toku happens! And then, you're starting to get pumped for that. And I think even though Eagle Prime was made out to be the favorite because it was the heavy hitter, I think a lot more people online were behind Kuratas and that Japanese aesthetic of how they built the robot, how they were treating the battle. And then, I made this prediction online after the fights ended that no one will remember or care that Eagle Prime won that second match. All that anybody's going to remember is two things from Kuratas: the drone that they deployed in the second match, which had a smoke screen attached to it, which was friggin' genius, and the fact that they one-shotted them in the first round.
Well, yeah, and think about it though. That first round, there is no way that the dudes behind Megabots were actually inside that robot. That seemed plainly staged to me also, because there were no safety features on that initial robot, and if you were watching during the first few minutes of that live stream, where they were showing just how many safety features they needed to install on their Mark II, that robot was a death trap. It seems really clear to me that they just set the robot up and then let Kuratas punch it and knock it over, because had the dudes been inside, they would have been so injured. Very, very injured.
Yeah, there would have probably been a concussion involved, so odds are there was some Star Trek shaky cam action to make it look like the dude was in the mech when it got hit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying I'm here saying most likely that was staged. I'm not here saying that that wasn't awesome, because it was.
Yeah, sure it
Like,
was.
everybody took that and ran with it. So many people making quick video edits to that footage because that's what people wanted to see. We wanted to see that, you see the robot there charging at him, and then, just add the One Punch Man theme to it, add Shining Finger from G Gundam. That's what people, well, nobody paid, but, that's what you would have paid to see.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second match, where it felt a little bit of overkill, and of course that was coming across through Megabots throughout their campaign, was that everything that they were doing just felt a little bit too, I felt, cruel to Kuratas, that it didn't really hold up with it. Like, you didn't need that much firepower and that much movement. Like, we know these things are huge and bulking and can only do so much, but having them just sit there and turn on the chainsaw and just let it do what it's doing, just making base contact, that wasn't a fight.
No,
it
really wasn't, and I felt like the Kuratas, it had so much more movability, maneuverability, and it did not use it. It was on wheels. It could have rolled all the way around. It didn't do it. It could have cut the hydraulic lines on the Mark II, the Eagle Prime Mark II, and it didn't do it. If you ask me, it felt really staged, but I think that the Kuratas in other circumstances could do a lot better. I think if put in a fair fight, it could really do some damage. And man, that drone, you're absolutely right. I will forever remember just seeing the footage of just the drone coming up and out of the back of the robot, and me just going, is that a drone? It was ridiculous. And then just taking out the viewing capabilities of the Eagle 1. Yeah, I did not expect, I was like, nobody told me this robot could do this, and that was the upper hand that the Japanese had, was that they weren't giving away everything that their robot could do.
Right, and that's kind of what you were hoping for, because years of conditioning from sci-fi media and anime tells me that if we're having a robot fight, the person who wins is the person who has a secret maneuver. That goes through Robot Jocks, it's there in G Gundam, it's there in Pacific Rim. That's what we were coming to expect, and only one person brought that to the fight, and that was Suidobashi with Kuratas.
Exactly. So, for that reason, as cool as Megabot's robot was, I'm gonna stick to seeing what Suidobashi does in the future, quite frankly.
And like most people, after the match, feel I'm in the same boat. I want a rematch. A real rematch.
Yeah, one that's obviously not staged, one that maybe has audiences in an arena somewhere, safely far enough away, that they're not going to get hurt by something falling off or exploding or something like that, but, somewhere real people can actually see what's going on without a whole bunch of editing at the same time. That sounds like it would be amazing. I do agree with what they were saying in that stream, that the next logical progression is a league. I want it to move in the direction of a fighting robot league. That would be amazing.
Yeah, actual manned robot league. And if you're going to stream this again, it's good that you have bilingual commentators, but at the same time, if you're going to pull a WWE and fake, oh, we need to get away from the announce table, sell it.
Yeah, right?
Maybe watch WWE push the kayfabe, don't actually just phone it in, because we watch that stuff every week after we're done watching our anime.
Well, wrestling is anime, and so are giant robots, quite frankly, so we were just watching more live anime. That having been said, I don't know what else we can say about that giant robot battle. It's cool that it happened, although I am kind of disappointed with what the end result of what that stream actually was.
but there's always hope for another fight.
Always hope for another fight, definitely. That, I think, is where we're going to kind of wrap it up. What do you say?
I would agree.
All right. So, I want to say thank you guys so much to anyone who tried to come out here tonight, and I know you were struggling to see it. I really appreciate it. I missed saying this at the beginning of the episode, but thank you to the Patreon contributors who allow us to continue to do this into our 9th season. Thank you for putting up with me. This is been an unusual situation that we're really hoping is not going to remain unusual, because Josh is going to be out here, and then we're not going to have to worry about connecting to one another anymore. That'll remove that element of awkwardness from this. I think Season 9 is going to be a very good season, despite a rough start, and I'm so thankful that so many of you guys were out here with us, trying to help us get the season started. You're definitely going to see this without buffering and without herking within the next day or so up on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/MarsGirl. I would say tonight most likely is not a night for live Q&A, but I would like to remind you guys that that is going to be an option during future episodes when we're not having buffering issues such as this, so that we can easily interact with you guys, because that's one of my favorite parts of doing this show, is being able to interact with you. Otherwise, we're going to keep trying to do this live on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Central. That's going to be 7 p.m. over here where I am in Pacific time. Although, here in a couple weeks, you're going to be coming out here. I'm going to assume in a couple more weeks that we're not going to do a show, and we'll either delay it or just skip a week.
So basically the way that'll work is we'll do one more show next week, and then we'll skip a week there on the 2nd, and then on the 2nd of November, and then we'll be back the following week.
Yeah, sounds good to me. That sounds like a fantastic plan. Until then, so thankful for you guys, and I guess this is the part where we sign off, and tell us about social media and stuff, Josh.
And of course, during the week, you can always talk to us over on social media. On Twitter, I'm at JoshKnight1st.
And I'm at MarsGirl.
That having been said, that's been the season premiere of Beyond the Black Rims. We will see you guys again next week.
Thank you so much, everybody.